Think you know everything about Terminator 2? Well, prepare to have your mind blown. I'm about to reveal 20 secrets from behind the scenes that will completely change how you watch this sci-fi masterpiece. From Arnold's shocking per-word salary to the disturbing real-life research that went into one death scene, these facts are wilder than anything Skynet could imagine. And trust me, when you hear what Arnold earned for saying just 700 words, you'll never look at "Hasta la vista, baby" the same way again. Let's dive in. But before we jump into these mind-blowing secrets, do me a favor, smash that like button if you're ready to have your favorite movie completely ruined in the best possible way. And if you want more behind-the-scenes deep dives like this, hit subscribe because I've got some serious movie secrets coming your way. All right, let's dive in. Number 20. The Internet Marketing Pioneer. Picture this. It's 1991. Most people have never heard of the internet, yet Terminator 2 was already using it to promote the film. While you were still renting VHS tapes from Blockbuster, this movie was making history as one of the first films ever marketed online. The studio partnered with Quantum Link, which later became America Online, to share trailers and cast information with a tiny community of early internet users. It sounds almost quaint now, doesn't it? But back then, this was like trying to advertise on Mars. This single decision helped launch the entire relationship between Hollywood and online marketing that we take for granted today. But here's something that'll really surprise you about the film's innovative approach. Number 19. The mirror trick that fooled everyone. Remember that haunting scene in the mental hospital where Sarah Connor faces herself? The one where the T-1000 is impersonating her? I bet you assumed it was cutting-edge CGI, right? Wrong. What you were actually watching was Linda Hamilton and her identical twin sister Leslie pulling off one of the cleverest practical effects in movie history. That mirror scene. There was no mirror at all. Leslie stood on the opposite side, perfectly copying Linda's every movement. The filmmakers literally had a built-in body double, and they used her brilliantly. James Cameron chose this method to save money on visual effects, which were still incredibly expensive in 1991. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most genius, and this trick works so well that most viewers never questioned it for a second. Speaking of clever filmmaking tricks, wait until you hear about the hidden Easter egg that only sharp-eyed fans spotted. Number 18. The alien connection you missed. Here's a fun challenge for your next Terminator 2 rewatch. During those intense steel mill scenes, pause and look closely at the machinery in the background. Notice anything familiar about the biomechanical industrial design? That's because James Cameron sneaked in visual elements from his other masterpiece, Aliens. The pipework, lighting, and industrial textures were deliberately designed to echo the aesthetic of the Alien universe. It's like Cameron left his signature hidden in plain sight, connecting two of his greatest films. Most viewers completely miss this connection, but once you know what to look for, you can't unsee it. It's these kinds of details that separate great directors from legendary ones. But if you think that's attention to detail, wait until you hear about the disturbing research that went into one particular death scene. Number 17. The disturbingly realistic death scene. The death of Miles Dyson isn't just emotional, it's medically accurate in the most unsettling way possible. When Dyson is mortally wounded and struggling to hold that detonator, his breathing patterns and physical reactions weren't just acting choices. James Cameron and Joe Morton studied actual footage of dying patients, particularly those suffering from chest trauma and respiratory failure. Instead of the typical Hollywood death with final speeches and peaceful fade-outs, Dyson gasps for air and can barely speak. Exactly how someone in that condition would actually behave. It's this commitment to brutal realism that makes the scene so haunting and unforgettable. Cameron wanted it to feel raw and grounded, and the result still gives viewers chills decades later. And speaking of massive commitments, let me tell you about the unprecedented budget that made all this possible. Number 16. The most expensive movie ever made. When Terminator 2 hit theaters in 1991, it shattered every record, including the budget record. At over $100 million, it instantly became the most expensive movie ever made at that time. To put this in perspective, the first Terminator cost around $6 million. The sequel's budget was nearly 17 times higher. That truck chase scene in the LA River, it cost more than most entire movies of that era. But here's the thing, it was worth every penny. The film grossed over $500 million worldwide, proving that sometimes you have to spend big to win big. This budget gamble changed Hollywood forever, showing studios that massive investments could lead to even bigger returns. However, all that money almost went to waste because of one major problem. Number 15. The X rating that almost killed the film Terminator 2 came dangerously close to receiving an X rating, which would have been a box office death sentence. The MPAA flagged the T-1000's brutal killing methods, the graphic blade arm stabbings, and Sarah Connor's intense nuclear nightmares as too extreme for an R rating. An X rating in 1991 didn't just mean adults only. It meant most theaters wouldn't show your film, and newspapers wouldn't run your ads. James Cameron and his team had to carefully edit and shorten the most violent scenes, removing excess blood and refining the editing to soften the impact. It was a delicate balance, maintaining the tension while toning down the gore. The fact that they pulled it off without compromising the film's intensity shows just how skilled Cameron's editing team really was. But the creative solutions didn't stop there. Even the weapons had to be specially designed. Number 14. Supersized guns for a supersized star. Here's something that'll make you see Arnold's action scenes differently. Most of the guns in Terminator 2 were specially enlarged to look proportional in Schwarzenegger's massive hands. Arnold stands over 6 feet tall with a bodybuilder's physique. When he held standard-sized weapons, they looked like toys in his grip. So the filmmakers worked with weapon designers to create oversized versions, particularly for the M134 minigun scene and the iconic shotgun. These weren't just cosmetic changes, they were crucial for selling the idea that the T-800 was built to handle heavy firepower with ease. The adjustments made the character more believable as an unstoppable killing machine and helped create some of the most iconic weapon moments in action movie history. Speaking of iconic moments, let me tell you about the painful reality behind one of the film's most memorable scenes. Number 13. Arnold's painful shotgun mastery. That legendary shotgun flip reload while riding the Harley. It looked effortless on screen, but behind the scenes, it was a nightmare for Arnold to master. The Winchester Model 1887 shotgun wasn't designed for one-handed use, let alone flipping while riding a motorcycle. The weapon was heavy, the mechanics were stiff, and that large loop they added for the flip made it even more awkward to control. Arnold spent weeks practicing this move, and the metal lever kept smashing his fingers, causing bruises and swelling. He had to wear padded gloves just to protect his hands during rehearsals. Sometimes they used lighter prop versions just to reduce the risk of injury. All that pain and practice for a few seconds of screen time, but those few seconds became one of the most iconic visuals in action movie history. Now, while Arnold was suffering through shotgun training, another actor was dealing with his own costume nightmare. Number 12. The costume that prevented sitting Robert Patrick's sleek T-1000 look came at a painful price. He literally couldn't sit down while wearing his costume. The filmmakers wanted the T-1000 to look like liquid metal in human form, so they redesigned the police uniform to hug Patrick's body as closely as possible. The result? A uniform so tight that once he was zipped and strapped in, he couldn't bend at the waist or sit in a chair. During breaks between scenes, while the rest of the cast relaxed in chairs, Patrick had to lean on a specially built backrest just to get some relief. Despite the discomfort, this costume choice paid off brilliantly. It made the T-1000 look polished, unstoppable, and genuinely inhuman. Exactly what the character needed to be terrifying. But here's an interesting contrast about what Arnold wasn't carrying. Number 11. The lightweight reality behind the heavy lifting. Despite all those scenes of the Terminator effortlessly hauling weapons and manhandling enemies, Arnold wasn't actually carrying anything extremely heavy during filming. Most of the props that looked heavy were actually lightweight versions created for safety and filming ease. The filmmakers used smart prop design to keep the shooting smooth and safe, while clever camera work and Arnold's natural strength made everything look convincingly heavy. It's another example of movie magic. Sometimes the most impressive-looking feats are actually the result of careful planning rather than brute force. Speaking of impressive scenes, let me tell you about one that was more scientifically accurate than you might expect. Number 10. The terrifyingly accurate nuclear nightmare. Sarah Connor's nuclear nightmare sequence is one of the most disturbing scenes ever filmed, and according to experts, it's also one of the most scientifically accurate depictions of a nuclear blast ever shown in cinema. Years after the film's release, scientists and defense experts confirmed that the sequence closely matches what would actually happen during a nuclear detonation. The heat flash, the shockwave pattern, the delayed destruction. James Cameron consulted nuclear specialists to ensure the visuals were grounded in reality. The scene where Sarah grips the fence as her skin burns away isn't just horrifying, it's based on actual research into what nuclear weapons do to human bodies. This commitment to accuracy is part of what makes the scene so haunting and effective. Now, speaking of real locations, here's a fact about one of the film's key settings. Number 9. The bank that became Skynet, the imposing Cyberdyne Systems building where humanity's fate was being written. It wasn't a fancy Hollywood set or high-tech laboratory. It was actually a real bank building in Fremont, California. The production team chose the Security Pacific Bank building for its modern industrial look, which perfectly resembled the kind of place where a tech company might develop advanced microprocessors. When our heroes break into the building to destroy Skynet's research, you're seeing real hallways and offices. The massive explosion during the Cyberdyne assault required careful coordination with local officials, special effects rigs, and safety teams to ensure the fireballs didn't cause actual damage. That building still stands today, a real-world monument to one of sci-fi's most memorable locations. But while they were filming in real locations, they were dealing with a very real problem with their young star. Number 8. The voice that wouldn't stay put. Edward Furlong was 13 when filming began, and like most teenagers, his body had other plans. His voice started changing in the middle of production, creating a nightmare for the sound team. Since filming took place over several months, Furlong's voice became noticeably deeper in some scenes than in others. You can't have your main character suddenly sounding older halfway through the movie, so the filmmakers had to get creative. They brought Furlong back for extensive post-production re-recording sessions, but then faced another problem. Some of his re-recorded lines sounded too mature. The sound team had to use audio editing tools to pitch his voice back up to match his earlier scenes. Unless you know what to listen for, most people never notice these changes, which is a testament to how well the sound team handled this biological curveball. Speaking of scenes that didn't make it, here's one that was too awkward even for this film. Number 7. The smile that was too creepy. There's a deleted scene that shows just how unsettling the Terminator could be when trying to act human. John Connor attempts to teach the T-800 how to smile, thinking it might help him blend in better. The result? One of the most unnatural and robotic facial expressions ever captured on film. Arnold's attempt at a friendly grin comes across as a stiff, forced grimace that looks more like a system malfunction than human emotion. James Cameron ultimately cut this scene from the theatrical release, feeling it might shift the tone and make the Terminator look silly just as the story was getting darker. The scene later appeared in extended editions, and fans still debate whether it adds humor or undermines the character's intimidating presence. But while some scenes got cut, others almost didn't get made at all. Number 6. The chase scene that almost got scrapped. That heart-pounding motorcycle and truck chase through the LA drainage canals. It almost didn't happen. Studio executives were seriously considering cutting or downsizing the entire sequence to save money. The scene required real vehicles, skilled stunt drivers, and extensive coordination with the city of Los Angeles to shut down the drainage system. The costs were enormous, and the financial pressure was intense. Fortunately, James Cameron fought hard for this sequence, arguing it was the crucial turning point where John sees the Terminator risk everything to protect him. Cameron got his way, and the team pulled off the chase using practical effects and real stunts with zero CGI. That semi-truck jump off the overpass, they actually did it for real, using ramps and precision driving. Sometimes the old-school approach creates the most memorable moments. Speaking of old school versus new school, let me tell you about the groundbreaking technology that had to be invented. Number 5. Inventing the future of visual effects. The T-1000's liquid metal transformations weren't just impressive for 1991. They were literally impossible until the effects team at Industrial Light and Magic invented the technology to make them happen. The idea of a shape-shifting assassin couldn't be achieved with makeup or puppets, so the crew had to create new digital animation tools, custom software, and rendering systems from scratch. Some of this technology was still being developed while the film was shooting. They used early 3D scans of Robert Patrick combined with morphing algorithms that had never been attempted before. Each second of T-1000 morphing footage took days to render, and the process was so advanced it was like building an entire tech company within a movie studio. This was one of the first films to use photorealistic CGI on a human character, and remarkably, the effects still hold up over 3 decades later. But technology was only half the battle. The actor behind the T-1000 put himself through an incredible transformation. Number 4. The actor who became a machine. Robert Patrick's commitment to playing the T-1000 went far beyond memorizing lines. He literally trained himself to move and behave like a machine, including learning to run at full speed without breathing heavily or blinking. Think about that for a moment. He taught himself to suppress basic human reflexes while performing intense physical activity. In that famous chase scene where he's sprinting after John Connor's dirt bike, Patrick is running flat out, yet his face remains completely neutral and expressionless. He practiced breathing control until he could maintain a steady chest while running. He minimized blinking, eliminated flinching, and even controlled how he turned his head and used his eyes. Every movement was measured and deliberate to minimize human behavior. This level of dedication created a character that felt genuinely alien and terrifying, not just because of visual effects, but because of the disciplined performance behind every single motion. But Patrick wasn't the only one using a family connections to enhance the film. Number 3. The twin sister solution. Linda Hamilton had a secret weapon in creating some of the film's most complex scenes, her identical twin sister Leslie. This wasn't just a fun cameo. Leslie played crucial roles in several key sequences. Instead of relying on expensive visual effects or tricky camera work, James Cameron used the sisters to create perfect shots where 2 versions of Sarah Connor appear simultaneously. In the Cyberdyne building scene where the T-1000 impersonates Sarah, you're watching Linda as the real Sarah and Leslie as the T-1000 copy, face to face, in real time. The famous mirror scene during the Terminator's head surgery? That's not a reflection at all. It's Linda with her back to the camera and Leslie sitting across from her, mimicking her exact movements with perfect synchronization. This natural advantage allowed the production to achieve shots that would have cost a fortune with CGI or taken weeks to edit, all while maintaining the authenticity of real-time performance, which brings us to Linda Hamilton's own incredible transformation. Number 2. The waitress who became a warrior. Linda Hamilton's transformation into Sarah Connor remains one of the most impressive physical and mental character developments in film history. She didn't just get in shape, she completely reinvented herself as a hardened survivalist. Hamilton trained relentlessly for over 3 months with Uzi Gal, a former Israeli commando, learning actual tactical shooting, reloading techniques, and room-clearing procedures. Everything you see on screen, from how she handles a shotgun to how she moves through combat situations, came from real military training, not just choreography. Her physical transformation was equally dramatic. She lost weight, built muscle, and sculpted a lean, powerful frame that perfectly matched her character's backstory of a woman who spent years preparing for a war that hadn't happened yet. Hamilton also worked with mental health experts to understand PTSD and long-term trauma, bringing authentic psychological depth to Sarah's cold, machine-like intensity. Her portrayal of a woman transformed by paranoia and obsession still stands as one of cinema's most compelling character evolutions. And after all that incredible preparation and performance from the entire cast, here's the most shocking financial fact of all. Number 1. The most expensive words in movie history. Here's the fact that will blow your mind. Arnold Schwarzenegger was paid $15 million for Terminator 2, but across the entire film, he only spoke about 700 words. Do the math, and that comes out to roughly $21,429 per word. Every hasta la vista baby cost more than many people earn in a year. Yes, Arnold did intense stunts, makeup, and physical work, But the math is still staggering, over $20,000 for saying no problemo. This legendary Hollywood trivia perfectly shows how action stars can command enormous paychecks for roles built on presence, not dialogue. 20 mind-blowing facts that prove Terminator 2 was even more incredible behind the scenes than it was on screen. Which fact shocked you the most? Drop a comment and let me know which classic sci-fi film you want me to dive into next. If you loved these secrets, hit subscribe because I've got deep dives planned for Aliens, The Matrix, and Blade Runner, films with just as many shocking behind-the-scenes stories. Trust me, once you start learning these secrets, you'll never watch movies the same way again.